Okay, good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody to our policy board meeting. I will convene the meeting at 2:02. We have proxies. I believe Councilmember Alter has Councilmember Fuentes' proxy. Ms. Patillo has Judge Brown's. I have Commissioner Inglesby. Judge Oakley has Commissioner Theriault. And Councilmember Matea has Commissioner Howard's. I don't think we have any other proxies.
I have Mayor Schrader.
Oh, that's right. And Councilmember Stevens has Mayor Schrader's. All right. With that, we have public comments, and I believe we have one. Mr. Butler, Dan Butler, if you'll go ahead and come up.
Good afternoon. Just quickly wanted to, before the group, recognize that you have a lot to say grace over with CAMPO. You know, from roadway transportation to public transportation to bicycle transportation to pedestrian transportation, freight systems, safety considerations, environmental justice considerations, considerations after considerations after considerations. And year after year, decade after decade after decade after decade. And my emphasis on the decades is because there's an area in which I live that I'm concerned about transportation. And throughout the past decades, it has been in a variety of plans. And in fact, it's been in Sunfield Mud 1, Mud 2, Mud 3, and Mud 4 plans. It's been in the City of Buda Transportation Plan for over 20 years. It's been in the City of Buda Master Plan for over 20 years. It's been in Hays County Transportation Plan. However, currently there's no roadways on the $440 million Hays County road bond proposal to address the issues that I'm asking for you to give recognition to. Also the City of Austin, also Travis County, this organization CAMPO, and TxDOT. 10 different entities of groups like this all have input into and ultimately responsibility for transportation roadways in and around Sunfield. Sunfield, if you're not familiar with it, is a community development which started about 15 years ago and currently is built out at about 4,000 homes. As it finishes phase 6, which is in the approval process right now, it will be over 5,000 homes, along with over 3,000 multifamily rental residential areas, all bordered by Turnersville Road running east and west. Oh, then there's the other Turnersville Road running north and south. There's 2001 on one perimeter, and then there is Main Street under construction coming out of the City of Buda. There are both minor transportation ways that have been identified and roadways, and I would just ask how or who do we talk to finally have these roadways approved and addressed?
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. All right, that was the only person we had signed up for public comments, so we'll move on. No need for item number 3 today. We'll move on to item number 4, update report from the TAC. Chad?
Yep. So the TAC met on October 21st with just information items on the agenda. This included an update on the development of the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. We had a discussion on the fall amendment cycle, which is on the agenda today. We also presented an update on the 2026 to 29 call for projects process. And lastly, we presented an update on CAMPO's project readiness program. That's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions for Chad? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our public hearing. Did we have anybody sign up for the public hearing?
Don't believe so.
Okay, so public hearing and presentation of amendments to the 2025-2028 TIP and 2045 RTP.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So this item, just wanted to present the fall amendment cycle, which is our regularly scheduled opportunity where we make significant changes to the regional transportation plan, as well as the transportation improvement program. So we've taken this item to the Technical Advisory Committee for an information item, and we've had the amendments out for community outreach from October 7th, and then later this week that will close out, and Joyce will brief you on that process in just a bit. And we are here today for the public hearing and information item, and then we'll be taking it back to the Technical Advisory Committee later this month, and then this will come back to the Policy Board for adoption in December. And so I think it's always a good opportunity to talk about the relationship between the plan and the TIP. Both of these things are living documents, and they provide crucial steps in the federal funding process. And so the Regional Transportation Plan, again, looks over a larger horizon, but it's crucial for projects to be listed there so that they can receive environmental clearance through the NEPA process. And it also sets up a project for federal funding eligibility through all of the federal programs that go through FHWA and FTA. Once projects are selected for federal funding, once they receive that commitment, that's when it comes to the Policy Board to be, the request comes to the Policy Board so that it can be included in the Transportation Improvement Program. That's a crucial check in the federal funding process. The federal funding cannot be obligated on specific projects without the express approval of the Policy Board, and that's what the TIP acts like. It's just this administrative record that this Policy Board agrees with the projects and the federal funding being spent on them. And so that's what we're here today to discuss. So we do regularly amend these twice a year. And so we have 14 amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program. We have 2 new projects that TxDOT submitted that were approved by the Texas Transportation Commission. This includes continuing funding for the HERO program. And then we also have the FM 812 project that I know has received some discussion here at the Policy Board, and so that's being included in the TIP as well. And then we have some changes, SH 95 near Smithville. There we're adding some additional funding there. Then the City of Georgetown and Williamson County have some projects that are underway, and so we're making some funding changes there as well. And then we've got 2 projects that are currently listed in the plan, but the construction funding has moved outside of the TIP window, and so we're removing those as well. But we do expect those to come back into the TIP at a later time once they get closer to construction. And additionally, we do have 5 projects that were funded through the various discretionary grant programs that are handled out of FHWA directly. Actually, I take that back. The NEVI program is run by TxDOT, and those provide electric vehicle infrastructure projects. We have one in HEB in San Marcos, and then another one at the Buc-ee's, I think, on I-10. So they're going to have some DC fast chargers installed there through the NEVI program. And then we have 3 projects through discretionary grant programs. That's the PROTECT program award the City of San Marcos received. That's a resiliency program, and so they're going to do some upgrades to a major subdivision in San Marcos. The City of Austin received the EV Charging Reliability Program grant to replace some electric chargers. And then Caldwell County received a raised grant for a truck plaza along SH 130. And then along with that, we do have 3 changes to the Regional Transportation Plan. We have 2 modifications to existing projects and a new listing from the CTRMA for 183A. A new project is being added there. I do also just want to point out that all amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program are automatically amended in the RTP. Those have to match per federal rules. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joyce to talk about the public engagement.
Thanks, Ryan. So we've had several in-person open houses that have incorporated the TIP amendments as well as the 2050 RTP and the regional safety plan, which you'll hear shortly. So any of the comments that we do receive this coming Saturday in Bastrop will still be incorporated into the comment period and the comments that both the TAC will review and this board will get before their discussion next month. So in addition to the in-person opportunities, we've had an online open house open since October 7th. People can participate and receive information by mail. They can also mail back those surveys and comment cards, send them by email, and also call a voicemail number and either leave a voicemail comment or request the information by mail. So this is the strategies that we've been using since 2020, and we continue to use those both for the amendment cycle and for the other outreach opportunities that we have.
Any questions of either Ryan or Joyce? Councilmember?
Thank you. I just wanted to express that I hope in the future that we will also be able to expand the HERO program to 360 and 620 and other major highways that we have, which could benefit greatly from that program. I know that this item is just sort of the continuation of that, and there's a request in for additional, but I just wanted to put forward mine and the City of Austin's desire to see this expanded to additional roadways. Thank you.
So I see Tucker over there taking notes, so. And just as a reminder, the HERO program, I don't know that anybody's here that would remember this. When TxDOT had the program and lost funding for it, CAMPO picked it up and started funding it, and then TxDOT again got some additional funding and took over the program and then really expanded it. So CAMPO has had a commitment to this for a very long time, so. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, and confirming that nobody signed up to speak on this item. Okay, all right, so we will move on to item number, did we do the minutes already? Okay. Move on to item number 6. Any corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right. Judge Oakley, Councilmember Matea seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Item number 7, authorize Ashby to begin negotiation of legal services contract.
Thank you, Chair. So this item is discussion and requested action for CAMPO's legal services contract. Our current legal services contract expires in February of next year, so we've begun the procurement process for a new contract to be in place by that point. The contract has a total budget not to exceed of $275,000 for the initial 3-year term of the contract. So on the 30th of September this year, a request for qualifications for legal services was posted and publicized by CAMPO, and we received 2 proposals which were reviewed by CAMPO's evaluation committee, with the top-ranked recommendation being Tim Tuckey Law. With the board approval, the Executive Director of Transportation will negotiate and execute a contract with the top-ranked firm. Next slide. So with that, staff recommends the policy board authorize Executive Director to begin contract negotiations with the top-ranked firm. Take any questions?
I'll move approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Ellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Item number 8. I think this is from you, Ryan. Update on call for projects.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this is just an information item about the project call process that we're undergoing right now. And I know I presented this back, I believe, in September, but I think it's always a good opportunity to really bring it back to the policy board as we're going through this process to keep you informed of where we are. Because I know a lot of your staff, I've been in touch with them throughout this process. They're working really hard on getting the applications together. So really, particularly today, I wanted to just remind you where we are in the process, but also kind of talk about what that process is. That we use to evaluate the projects, because we're going to be bringing back a recommendation next year, and I think it's a good opportunity now to kind of, since we haven't done a project call in 7 years, I think, was the last time we did one, and so I think it's really important to go through that process. So currently, so the due date is December 20th. This is a process to allocate funding for the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program, as well as our Carbon Reduction Program funding, and so they have very similar eligibilities, and so we've got close to $70 million that we're going to be selecting projects for. And so that after that December 20th due date, we're going to spend all of next spring evaluating those projects using the process that we've approved. And then our target currently is to bring this to, we'll be bringing it beforehand, but have the policy board take an action on that recommendation on June 9th for those funding sources. And so this slide is really what I wanted to particularly focus on today, is the 2-part process that we use for selecting projects. So the first part on the left side, you see the readiness assessment. So we do 2 things. We check to ensure that a project can actually move forward should we select it for funding. And I think this is probably the most extensive part of the process. We have to go through up to 15 different items depending on what project phase is being requested. We have to go through a lot of different things to ensure that should we pick this project, it can actually move forward as is proposed in the proposal. So projects that are determined to be ready move into the project evaluation process. And this is what was approved in 2017. We've had a couple of major updates to it since then, particularly the TDM program criteria was updated, I believe, in 2020. And then we've updated the transportation planning criteria to match what was in the 2045 regional transportation plan goals. But through that process, we look at depending on the type of project it is, we look at the planning factors, which are the performance measure aspects of a project, and then we do a cost-benefit analysis on every single project that we receive, and that looks at the benefit that we receive on the project versus, in relation to how much money we have to invest in it in order for that project to move forward. Through that process, we'll have a ranking and score, and we go just down that list and match it up with the funding availability and eligibility as we go through that process. So hopefully that's really just kind of a high-level summary. So we'll be bringing that recommendation back probably in May for a preview for the policy board and then asking for approval in June. But if you're not familiar with the process, the backup documentation is pretty extensive, but I would encourage everyone to get familiar with that process, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to select all of the projects. The process it's a very solid, thorough, and transparent process, and I want to make sure that everybody understands when we're bringing a recommendation back to the policy board, it's really about the region and the projects that can actually move forward. It's not about picking and choosing one project over the other. It's what the process says is the best value for the region and what can actually move forward. So that's why I wanted to bring it back today, just to kind of set the foundation. And I've been working with your staff as you are selecting projects to actually submit. I would encourage you to look through the process and get familiar with it. So that's really it. I'll take any questions if y'all have any, but we'll certainly be bringing back this process as we go through. So thank you.
Just as a kind of a reminder, the readiness assessment is important because many years ago, we had awarded projects that weren't close to ready, and so they sat for a long time, and costs changed and scopes changed and all of that. So the goal was to get those dollars out the door so that people could be working on projects that were ready. So as you're submitting them, just make sure that it's one that can get accomplished in that time frame.
You're being charitable by saying weren't ready. Some of these things, I mean, it was pretty outrageous. So all of y'all who talk about how you have your engineering done and you got some projects on the thing, ready to go, turnkey, this is your option and opportunity to go ahead and do so. So I highly, highly encourage you to work with your staff. Make sure you look at the criterion. I think one of the frustrations at times is that staff may or may not be looking at the right criterion, and then they may advise their elected officials of such, and then the elected officials get all up in a hurry, and then you're like, dude, did you see what it said right there? And it's like, oh, my bad. So please go ahead and do so. But this is a great opportunity for everybody involved to get things done. I think particularly as when you said 7 years, Ryan, I'm like, wow, okay. And just thinking about how far and how many changes have been made in the region since that time period, I think we are at a good place with all of our cities to be able to go ahead and take advantage of this and get some stuff done.
And to Chair Long's point about readiness, so last year TxDOT made a change to the Texas Administrative Code, and that change basically says for the Surface Transportation Block Grant funding, which we don't have a call for until next year, but it basically says if we go over 200% of our annual allocation of that funding, anything above that is subject to be moved to another region if we don't spend it. So the rule has cracked down, which is why we're cracking down on this. So right now, in terms of having our money obligated and ready to go, we're number one in the state, and we have been for over a year or so. And I intend to maintain the position that we have.
Wow. Shots fired.
And Ashby, if I could add on to that too, I think two things. One is that this is the same process we're going to be using for the Surface Transportation Block Grant process that we're going to start immediately after we finish this one up. And the other thing is that the carbon reduction funding, as well as transportation alternative set aside, has a 4-year obligation limitation. So if we don't use it, do not obligate it on a project within 4 years of it hitting our bank account, then that funding lapses and goes back to the federal government, and we no longer have it available. So those are kind of two crucial things, and that obligation is, predicated on the project being ready to go, because they obligate it right before it's about to let, when it's certified for letting. So crucial things. So thank y'all for bringing that up.
So I'm glad you said the time frame. So they certify it right before it gets letting, so
Yeah.
people are aware of that. Okay. In 4 years. Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Ryan on this? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item number 9, update on the Regional Safety Action Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicholas Samuel, Senior Lead Regional Planner with CAMPO. Before I hand it off to Brian Chandler, our safety lead from DKS Associates, I just wanted to let you all know that this safety plan is funded by the federal SS4A, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. It is, hopefully will continue to be a very important program to getting safety implementation funds directly to local governments. And so the whole point of us doing this program is to allow our local governments to apply for that money in the future. I also wanted to say thank you to all the people who have been involved in the county task force so far. A lot of your staff have been, and it's been a good couple months working with them and trying to understand the safety needs in our region. And in particular, working with the folks at Travis County who are doing this study alongside us. So I wanted to thank them and then hand it off to Brian here.
Very good. Yeah, thank you, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. Brian Chandler with DKS Associates. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon to share with you kind of what we're up to right now on the Regional Safety Action Plan. As Nick had mentioned, CAMPO received $2.3 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation to conduct this plan. This plan includes two parts. There's a regional-wide action plan that is kind of the umbrella plan of this effort, and then individual chapters for each of the member counties. 5 of those counties are part of the contract and the plan that we're working on now, and then Travis County received a separate grant where they're working on their safety plan in tandem alongside and in parallel. Our team has a liaison that's meeting monthly with the Travis County team as well. And this plan, as Nick mentioned, allows CAMPO and the local agencies to apply for implementation funding through the SS4A program. There's several different parts of SS4A. This planning effort we're doing now is one of them, and then there are several other ways to use this plan to then achieve additional funding. And just a quick graphic of kind of what that looks like, the regional plan on top, each of those county level plans that we're working on now, and then the Travis County plan as well. One of the foundations of the Regional Safety Action Plan that is brought to us from USDOT is called the Safe System Approach. This is a set of principles which are kind of shown there around the outside, led with death and serious injuries are unacceptable. This is really a push from the U.S. government through the National Roadway Safety Strategy to apply. Some of these are things that we know. I've been in traffic safety for over 20 years, and not everything on this graphic is new, but some of these items are. And what is definitely new is the idea of integrating these together. And so some of the other principles that we believe to be true and that we're moving forward with are that humans make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, responsibility is shared, safety is proactive, and redundancy is crucial. So that takes us to the inside here of what the safe system approach elements, that the redundancy of these 5 elements, making sure that they're integrated together is an important part of the safe system approach.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. You said that this is the first time there's been an integration of these various different parts. What was the impetus for it?
Yeah, so it's lots of different things. So in previous iterations of safety strategy, there's been elements like the 4 E's, engineering, education, enforcement, and EMS. The idea behind the safe system approach is to broaden that out. I think one thing that we found least I'd say in my own experience, in the previous 4E approach, is that those E's could get siloed pretty easily. It can be easier for engineers like myself to maybe not talk to law enforcement. So one of the big pieces that was seen, I think both locally at the regional, state level and at the national level, was the need for this integration. So seeing that that wasn't being integrated, also to be quite honest, seeing the numbers. The number of fatalities, serious injuries has gone up significantly over the past decade. And so that's part of the impetus of looking to find another way to kind of build a new framework to try to think about this at least a little bit differently. Next, thanks. The project scope itself, developing the plan, includes reviewing existing plans and policies. We're in the middle of that right now. Making some recommendations based on that policy review. Looking at safety goals and objectives, developing those. I'll give you a couple examples of a draft vision and goal today at the regional level. Identifying projects and strategies, also prioritizing those. That's prioritizing both the needs, then also prioritizing the projects themselves. And that comes primarily through safety analysis. So analyzing crash data, developing high injury network, but also looking at other factors that can lead to future crashes. It's important that we have an equity analysis. Another thing that we have looked at harder than ever, I would say in the last 6 to 8 years, is that the traffic safety is not applied equally geographically or by socioeconomic or race and ethnicity. So it's an important piece that we're addressing in a direct way. And then also public outreach being an important part of the effort. The overall roadmap, you can see we kicked off at the bottom of the screen there in May, have been moving forward this spring, summer, into the fall. We're currently in the middle of wrapping up our data collection and analysis of the crash and other safety data. We conducted the first round of public engagement in October, and then we'll be working forward here in the fall and winter on policy recommendations, and then focusing first on the county level safety action plans. So we're doing those right now, the 5 in parallel, along with that coordination with Travis County. And then working on their projects, the strategies. There'll be another round of engagement. And then I'm wrapping up those county level action plans in the spring, then shifting that effort to complete the regional safety action plan this next summer. And to Joyce.
Thank you, Brian. So as Nick mentioned, Travis County is working on their own safety action plan. So we did have an event last Friday in Manor. It was Manor's Night Out, and so we were doing outreach for the 5 counties and then also invited Travis County staff to have a table with us. So it was really convenient for the residents of Eastern Travis County and others that were traveling within the area to find information about Travis County's initiative and also the other 5 counties within the CAMPO region. So as Brian mentioned, the public comment period is open right now until November 18th. As we were doing with the TIP amendments that I just reviewed, there's in-person opportunities as well as an online open house. You can also request information by mail and get a postage paid envelope so you can return that survey. And we're collecting input about safety concerns, providing information about what this study is, and we'll have additional rounds of engagement later this year and into next year.
Thank you, Joyce. On that note, too, just want to briefly mention there are a couple boards in the room today. For those who are in the room, those are similar to what we've been sharing with in some of the regional open house events as well. One thing that we have come to is a draft version of the vision and goal for the Regional Safety Action Plan. And I'm going to read those to you today. The draft vision is that the streets and roads in the CAMPO region are safe, accessible, and well-connected for all road users and of all abilities, pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and drivers. And our draft goal for this plan is to reduce roadway fatalities and serious injuries by half by 2035 and to 0 by 2050. The specific goal is consistent with the TxDOT Road to Zero goal, both that half by 2035 and that vision of 0 in 2050. Next slide. So our next steps, for you all, I would just ask any additional feedback that you have on the public engagement events, on the goal-setting exercise that we've begun or in the midst of. And then for our project team, we'll be completing county-level needs prioritization, looking at project strategies and policy recommendations over the next couple months, and then preparing for round 2 of public engagement. And Nick Samuel is your project contact.
Yes, so if there's any questions that you guys have about either about the efforts for the regional plan or the county level plans, please reach out to me, and we can get you in contact with the leads for those county plans that we have, or for anybody else that you need. Thank you.
So, Brian, I have a question. You mentioned earlier sort of the 4 E's and sort of the silos piece of that, and that maybe engineers weren't talking to law enforcement, but I don't see any mention anywhere in here about law enforcement being key towards safety, i.e. traffic enforcement.
Yeah, very, very much are in there. Yeah, let me, if we can, if it's okay to go back to the safe system approach graphic. A couple of places that law enforcement and emergency medical folks show up. One is in the safer people. The contrast is a little low, at least looking on the screen from here. Safer people is very much about the idea that human behavior is extremely important, and that people do get hurt and killed on quote-unquote perfectly designed roads because people do make mistakes, people make bad choices, and so there is very much a role for law enforcement to support the enforcement of those laws. At the same time, we know that because we know that humans make mistakes, there's an element of enforcement that also lies on us, the engineers, to design and operate roads that are self-enforcing or that are designed so that, for example, it is very difficult to drive over 25 or 30 miles per hour around a roundabout. It just physically isn't possible because of the design of the structure of that intersection. And so while we could have law enforcement at every intersection everywhere writing tickets, we also could design some of those intersections so that it is not feasible or even possible to drive above the posted speed limit. Yeah. So and the reality is it's both and, right? We're not going to do either of these things and leave out the other, but there's an ability for us to both design self-enforcing roadways, but then also have what I believe strongly is a very important role for law enforcement in traffic safety.
So, and I'm glad you shared that, but it's not, at least first glance, I didn't interpret safer people and law enforcement. So if there's a way to make that more illustrative so that it's clear that that has a key role, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing we probably didn't do here and could have is shown more of those roles. Who are those of us, whether it's planners, engineers, enforcement, educators, outreach. Yeah, these roles are all important. And I mentioned the 4 E's as an example. Those 4 elements of education, enforcement, engineering, and EMS are still very much embedded and important in the process. So yeah, I appreciate the question. And in the plan, there definitely will be a more direct connection to each of those roles.
And Chair Long, I'll just add that in the county plans and the task forces so far, we've invited and had law enforcement at those meetings, and they've been a good help in trying to understand the needs, because they're on the ground seeing all the safety issues that we recognize, and they can point when we show them maps and say, I know that specific crash, I know that what's happening there. And so it's a real eye-opener actually so far to have them involved in this process.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure we highlighted that because that's a very key element to safer roads. So.
And to the chair's point, I mean, you obviously see EMS services. You do an excellent job talking about that. So maybe put a graphic there and what from that. And I think most people probably, I mean, I don't think it's intuitive necessarily to think of law enforcement in that capacity, because most folks are trying to do that 35, 40 around roundabouts, and they don't want to get caught doing so over there. So that may be another reason why you want to go ahead and illustrate that and actually articulate that. Nick, I have a question for you though, bud. If we're talking about the various different counties and getting input into what those plans are respective of each county, how do we do so from, if you're a city, particularly some of our smaller cities, I know we have the rep here too as well, but you know, I mean, we know some of these people that live in these areas. How would they get that information? Do it through their CAMPO rep? Do they contact you? Are the plans made cognizant and cogent somewhere so someone can upload and say, dude, you missed this area right over here? How would they go about doing that?
So I'll start off by saying that this planning effort is looking at all class of roadways, so we're looking at the local roads as well as the arterials in it. So the data that we're looking at is including a lot of the stuff that people are going to be seeing on their day-to-day basis, when they're driving to work and everything. We have been engaging with the various cities for each of the counties in that task force, so whether those are city engineers or other people involved in the specific cities within the counties, we've had them part of that task force. I know that the staff on the City of Pflugerville is involved in the Travis County task force, so that's good to know there.
Yeah, but that's not fair, because, I mean, like, we got, 85 in the city and another 35 for it, so, like, it's not small. What I think of, in all sincerity, I do think of these smaller cities, because we often hear from them saying, hey, listen, we have these issues that happen, we don't know how to get someone to highlight them. And additionally speaking, just like you said, it's the information that's reported. So oftentimes, a lot of these areas, they may not just report it, they may just handle it their own ways with that, but they're cognizant that they become issues over and over again, if that makes sense.
And the area offices from TxDOT have also been very involved in this process so far. So a lot of the smaller towns, they might see a large portion of their crashes on state facilities, and so having those people in the room as well has been very important to us. And we know that small cities are strapped enough to get somebody to put together a project list, let alone to come to these meetings.
So I should tell Wahlberg to go straight to the chair for all their issues.
So, Madam
Bring
Chair.
German food.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is it possible, just along those lines, if we are working directly with our counties, is it possible to put some kind of questionnaire together, 4 or 5 standard questions that you might share with the city and make sure that the counties are aware of it, so that we can fold them in, so that you can lay out your priorities, so that you can lay out your questions, so that we set a predicate for the conversation?
And so the website is campo-rsap, is that right, Joyce? campo-rsap.com. It's in the background paper, perhaps, or maybe not. It's on our Campo website. Right now, if you go to that website, you'll see our open house material, and it has, just as you're talking about, Commissioner, it has a fairly basic set of questions for each county. Every county has the same questionnaire. And it's a needs assessment that we're going to be utilizing for the county-specific plans, and then also for the regional plan as well as a comment map where people can put down pinpoints where they see trouble areas in their own area.
So, Commissioner, I think, to your point, though, and maybe we take it upon ourselves and our staff to reach out to our cities
To share,
to make
yes.
sure that they are seeing that, especially the ones that aren't represented on the policy board.
And I like the idea of having guided questions. Sometimes if we have an open-ended process, you get 50 different types of things, where if we ask direct questions or for different types of information that we know is available, then gives us an opportunity to compare and contrast in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
I heard keep that in mind. Can we make that happen?
Yes, I mean, the survey is open right now, but we will certainly make sure that we can compare across counties.
Cool.
And that
It makes more, just like what the chair said and what Commissioner Trevelyan was saying, we just know how people operate, dude. And that's like, okay, have some standard thing, predicate, put it out there, and then they can't come back and say, we weren't aware of this, we didn't have an opportunity to give input, those other aspects.
Yep. And we've also reached out to many of the PIOs from each of the cities, so they have information about the survey as well as the open houses that have been going on.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I don't think Councilmember Mater was saying that Pflugerville was particularly hard to work with, was he?
You see what I have to deal with? You see, why are we going through these counties again? I don't understand this.
I'm just trying to understand, that's all.
All right. right, thank you. Ashby, we're on to item number 10.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a few items today. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I processed a series of administrative amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program. And just as a quick refresher on administrative amendments, those are two existing projects that are in the TIP, and it does not change the project scope cannot change, the budget cannot change, and the limits of the project cannot change. So, Doyce, can we go to the, thank you. So the projects, there was a list of them, and if you'd like the full list, we can send that out to you. Some of them were related to I-35 Central, and these were just breakouts to the overall project of things that have been discussed by this body, have been presented from TxDOT Austin District. Then also some changes to 360 at Courtyard that did not require going through a full process. And then we had some changes to projects on 71, both in Travis and Bastrop counties. And then we had some bus purchases from San Marcos that needed to be in the TIP per Federal Transit Administration requests that we processed. And then also Cap Metro had some capital investments that needed to be included as well per Federal Transit Administration. So we process those, and like I said, we're happy to send you the full list if you'd like to see those. Then one of the other things I wanted to highlight was the groundbreaking for CapEx that I missed, unfortunately. So congratulations to our Austin District on this milestone, major milestone for the region and for the state.
And before you leave that, Ashby, I had the opportunity to speak on behalf of CAMPO there, and I just also wanted to say congratulations, Tucker and the team, to just the way you, I've never seen TxDOT work a project like this in terms of the community input and really coming up with some context-sensitive design, and so hats off. It was a great job to you and your team.
If I could make a comment about it also. It was a great day. Great to have all of our partners. You can see them there on the screen to celebrate with us. But I want to mention, give a shout out to our Transportation Planning and Development Director, Heather Ashley Wynn. She's not here today. But last month at our short course at Texas A&M University, one of the highlights that we have at the short course is every year there are awards given, statewide awards. It's the highest honor that anyone from TxDOT can receive, and Heather was awarded with the Gibb Gilchrist Award in large part to her work on I-35 project. And I've met with Heather, with many around the table here at this panel, and you've met with Heather and me on a number of projects, not just I-35, but you know she does a great job. So couldn't be here today, but I want to make sure that I mention that to this body, that she's a well-deserved award. She was recognized last month.
Then we've presented to you before about CAMPO's initiative with the TxDOT Austin District to work on a regional traffic management center and sort of creating the backbone for that. So that work continues, and we had a meeting a week before last where we brought in regional partners to talk about strategies to continue to move that forward. And then one of the things I wanted to highlight for you was City of San Marcos staff person Saba Sevilla presented what he's been doing in San Marcos, and I thought it was innovative and showed what you can do with a little bit of money and a whole lot of initiative. Mm-hmm. So basically, instead of going out and buying very expensive equipment to put in cameras everywhere and being able to see those cameras and gather that data, he's bought $300 GoPro cameras and mounted them in the intersections, and he pulls up the website and it does everything that the expensive ones do. So we're using that now as a model that we can take to smaller cities with smaller budgets and smaller staffs and resources. But also, Mayor, I've talked to Sabas. I want to take him to our national conference next year. So we think this can be replicated across the country. So y'all will be hearing from us more going forward. Then also, congratulations to City of Austin on a discretionary grant award that was just, I think, announced Friday or so for $32 million for Barton Springs Road replacement. And then also, congratulations.
Clarification, it's just the Barton Springs Road Bridge.
Okay.
I want to make sure people didn't think it was the whole road.
Oh, okay. Thank
I was
you.
already excited.
Just the bridge over Barton Creek.
It's the replacement of the bridge. No, that's another one. So then also congratulations to the City of Cedar Park for an Attain grant they got for traffic management. How much?
He's right here.
No. How much did you get? Okay, sorry.
$10 billion.
So also one last thing, I know that for the $105 million discretionary grant for the 35 bridge deck at 4th Street, but also for this grant, those need to be in the Transportation Improvement Program. For the City of Austin members, Director Mendoza and I discussed that this morning. We are going to process a special amendment to be considered at the January meeting in keeping with the TxDOT STEP process, and we've discussed that with TxDOT and Federal Highways already. So rest assured, we're working the process on that, and that'll be coming back to you in January.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, item number 11, just wanted to thank Doyce for picking up coffee. I think Mayor Mitchell and others were thankful for that, so that was a hit. And also a reminder that the December 9th meeting is not here. Where is it? This is a test. I told you last month.
At our headquarters.
No.
Georgetown.
Yes, it's in 100 Wilco Way. There is the address. So get out your phones and put it in there right now. Take out the other ones so that you don't go on autopilot and come here. You'll be in the wrong place if you do that. And then the next TAC meeting will be November 18th, and again, December 9th is our December meeting. Thank you all for attending, and appreciate you, and we'll see you in December. Meeting is adjourned at 2:49.
Because